Hey guys, Melissa's Fireside Chat again. I know it's been a while since I've done a coaching session, but today's topic, I'm going to revisit one of my favorite topics that I talked about in my early years as a life coach, a relationship coach, and that is what are the three main causes of relationship failure? Now, why do I want to talk about that? Because, like a good coach, if you know what makes you fail, then you can avoid those pitfalls to know what makes you win. So it's always the same three categories across the board, but today I'm going to talk about a lot of us know what is wrong, but that doesn't mean we know how to solve it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how to solve each of these three areas in your relationship to set yourself up for a better chance of success. Now, while I can't predict the outcomes because we're going to assume that you start with good material meaning the people involved. And when I say good material, I mean to emotionally mature, to emotionally available, emotionally intelligent partners, then I've got some strategies for you if you're starting with two partners like that that are willing to do the work, to talk about these issues, and to make sure they set their relationship up for success. Okay, so the three areas of failure are, and not necessarily in this order, but the first one I'm going to mention is the one that I want to start as the overarching thing we need to work on for the other two areas as well. The first one is communication failure. Failure to have good communication or good conflict resolution skills. So communication is a skill, which means you can learn it and you can get better at it. So I'm going to talk about that. The second and it's not in this order, like I said, these are the top three though. The second of the top three reasons that relationships fail across the board, all the studies, all the research shows, is financial conflicts, financial disagreements. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. And number three, and like I said, these may be in any order depending on who you're talking to, but the third in the top three is infidelity. Okay, so let's talk about number one, because number one, I believe if you can get this one right, if you can learn how to communicate in an effective way and get better at your communication skills, learn how to communicate and listen better with empathy, learn how to resolve conflict better, then you can, the other two areas, setting your relationship up for financial success, being able to have a conversation about finances, working as a team, working as a partnership, if you can learn how to communicate about these sensitive areas. So this is going to be a shorter video, but in YouTube, I'll get more into the longer form videos. So I'm just going to give you some kind of quick bullet points today because this is just a short, but for the financial issues, the first thing is you just need to normalize talking about it once you decide you're engaged. And I'm talking to singles today to set yourself up for a fresh start. Singles who are engaged to be married or getting married, because you're not really going to talk about finances a lot until you get to that serious point. But if you're engaged to be married or newlyweds, you need to have that conversation pretty much in the beginning about how are we going to agree on finances? How are we going to budget together? How are we going to split the money? And sit down and put it down on paper. And, a lot of people don't want to do this. Why? Because a lot of us don't want to be accountable. We have, myself included, I was an overspender. I had a lot of undisciplined habits, but I learned, very early on in my marriage that I had to learn to be more disciplined because my husband was very disciplined in this area and we had to get on the same page. And it's never been my strong suit or my forte, but as a single again now, if I want to prepare myself for another partnership, I have to realize it's not all about me. It's not all about what I want to spend. And so I have to learn how to be disciplined and responsible in my own personal finances, right? How much am I going to spend? How much am I going to save? How much do I need to make? These are all things that you need to talk about and come to an agreement when you're in a partnership, even more so. Because what is a good relationship built on? We've talked about what makes it fail. What it's built on is respect and trust. So if you're going to respect your partner, that means you may have to discipline yourself a little more because you respect them and the fact that you have two people now trying to make this work. So you need to come in agreement and both of you need to respect each other and have a conversation that is built on mutual trust and love and respect for the other person. And if we're going to trust each other, we have to show that we can be trusted in our finances, in our discipline. Okay, so that's what I would say, is just normalize having those conversations early on where you're working as a team, and make it fun. Don't make it just about what we can't spend. Make it about what you're building together too, and what your goals are, what your dreams are, and how can you both contribute to maybe being disciplined in certain areas of your finance so that you can do the things you really want. Okay, so those are some great conversations. And then the infidelity, what this would mean is early on in the relationship, even in the honeymoon phase, there's not really a threat and you're not worried about this. This usually occurs after things get old, or you've been married a while, or it's after the honeymoon phase and maybe you're getting on each other's nerves, or you're fighting. That's when infidelity and things can start to creep in and be tempting. So I think what couples should start talking about early in the relationship is, how are we going to put safeguards in place so that when those moments hit, when those dry moments hit, when we're going through tough times or conflict, how are we going to safeguard, proof our relationship? So what does this look like? Well, you need to talk about, these are going to be our boundaries in dealing with the opposite sex, what we are going to do, what we're not going to do. And whatever those rules are, come up with them together, but both play by the same rules. And if you have a different set of rules, then you need to talk about that with respect and with, love, that it's not important for who's to be right or wrong, but more important that you both feel emotionally safe in the relationship, because emotional safety builds trust, it builds intimacy, and you will have a great sex life when that's in place. When you can trust your partner, you can talk about it. And then as the relationship progresses, keep talking about it. If one of you has a higher sex drive or wants it more than the other, talk about it. Say, hey, I'm feeling tempted. I need this more from you. But normalize having these conversations in the beginning. This being able to do it without, because what happens if you don't have those conversations, then you end up later having a big fight and a big blowout because you didn't talk about it. So you can say, hey, this makes me feel safe when you don't, text other females constantly, or when you don't do pornography, or whatever it is that you want to have the same standards and values. So if you have a person that's on a different page, at least you'll find out in the beginning. If you're on completely different pages, probably not a match for you. If they make you feel triggered and anxious and not safe, and they don't want any accountability, probably not a good match. So values are so important, but it's important to talk about those values too. It's important to talk about specifically what those values look like in these areas are a very good place to start, because if you can learn to communicate effectively and respectfully and work through conflicts in a healthy way, if you can learn to talk about finances and have some financial dreams and goals you're building together that you can get excited about, and if you can learn to talk about how you want to make each other feel safe in the relationship, and you want to make sure your relationship never goes through the heartbreak of betrayal or infidelity, then you've at least got a fighting chance. So I'm a lover of great relationships. I still believe they exist. I was, married to a great man, and there's a lot of things I did wrong. There's a lot of things he did wrong, but we figured out a lot of stuff too along the way. And now, even more so, after having more experience as a single and what I want and what I don't want, I'm not here as an expert looking down on you and telling you I have all the answers, but what I am saying is we need to be very intentional if we're going to have great relationships. But more importantly, and this is the last thing I'll say, I had to learn also that I wasn't ready for a new relationship until I got some of these things in order myself, until I'm more disciplined in my own finances, until I'm, not needing attention from all these other males all the time. You have to get to a place. God's not going to just send you, if you're a believer like me, he's not going to just send you someone if you're not ready for it. If you're showing that you're not ready and you're undisciplined in any of these areas, don't expect him to send you someone. But if you really want to be married again, and I do, I'm a wedding planner, obviously I believe in marriage still, and I want that for myself again someday, then you have to prepare yourself by being the right person now and getting yourself prepared before you meet that person. Okay, I hope this has been helpful. Hey guys, have a great day. Enjoy dating too, and normalize dating again, and take it slow and get to know each other. Don't feel rushed, because slower is faster. What do I mean? If you rush too much, you're going to make the bad choice. You're not going to make the right choice in a relationship. So take it slow, get to know each other, have fun, normalize dating and just going out with different people and getting to know yourself again. And then when you do find a match, make sure that you take your time and really get to know if this is the person that is compatible with you in all these areas, And then you have a chance to have a really great, long-lasting relationship that also still has excitement and trust and love and all the good things a relationship brings. It does take work, but in my opinion, it's worth it. Okay, I hope you guys have an awesome day.